Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is Jim Lowenstern. This is the eXponential Files. I have a great guest on the show today, Wendy Forsythe, who is uh, well, what is your title, Wendy? CMO of eXp?
Yes, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, CMO.
And how long have you been with eXp?
I am coming up and celebrating my 1 year anniversary here
Oh,
at
congratulations. That's great.
I know the year has gone by quickly and gosh, we have accomplished a lot in the last year.
So I was going to ask you, how would you characterize the year?
When people ask me that, I tell them that I don't remember my life before eXp. I've been in this industry 30 years. My entire career has been in the real estate industry, but the eXp community and ecosystem has just so invigorated me over the last year that I have been re-energized in a way I couldn't have imagined. And I've been given so many blessings from this community and just get up every day excited to pour back into the community myself.
Well, that's great. 30 years. So where did you start and what were you
Yeah.
doing then and what
Yes.
was next after that
I actually started sort of kind of in your neck of the woods.
in
Uh,
Boston?
well, a little northeast of Boston. I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada.
Oh, I was going to say the ocean. Okay.
The
So, yes.
ocean. That's almost the ocean. So yes, I started my real estate career in Nova Scotia, Canada. That's where I'm originally from. I got my real estate license when I was in college studying to get my business degree, majoring in marketing. And my dad gave me some great advice. He said, if you want to be a business person, you should learn how to be a salesperson, and recommended that I get my real estate license to see if I liked being a salesperson. And turns out I did like being a salesperson. And that's how I started my real estate
Were
career.
you in Halifax or Yarmouth or?
Close to that, about an hour east of Halifax in the Annapolis Valley.
Okay. I was in Halifax once on a rainy night, and that's all I remember. I,
Yes.
I think the whole
Well,
week was kind of rainy.
at least it wasn't snowing.
No, it was definitely not snowing. I went to see the tidal bore.
Ah, yes. The famous tidal bore. Not a lot of people know what the tidal bore is.
And it is certainly not boring.
It is not boring. And so are we going to tell everyone, or are we just going to let them
Yeah,
Google this
yeah, well, they can
stuff?
Google it, of course, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's when the water goes out to sea and all the boats end up on the bottom of the harbor, basically.
Yes,
If
yes.
you were going to sit there and watch it, it is kind of boring. It's
It
in
is kind of boring, but it's
slow
remarkable to
motion.
see when you come back 6 hours later and all those boats that were floating in water are just beached in mud.
Yep, yep. Okay, so what came after Nova Scotia?
So I was an agent for a couple of years, really heavily focused on the listing side of the business. My early sort of claim to fame is in my first year. I took over 100 listings,
Okay.
and really just like leaned into sales. And then
Well, let's not go past 100 listings.
yeah,
I'm sure our listeners want to know. First year in the business, 100 listings, average 2 listings a week, right?
yeah,
Were
yeah,
these all sold or lots of them
yeah, yeah,
sold?
yeah, yeah.
So you crushed it the first year.
So I crushed it. I had a really good like first year, and I was still in college because I got my license while I was going to business school. Yeah, I did both.
So the question is how? How did
So
you
I did two
accomplish that?
things. I did open houses and I worked the phones. So that the summer that I got my license in late spring. That summer, every day I did an open house at a new construction spec house. So I just sat open houses, talked to the people that came into the open house, and the majority of them had a home to sell if they were looking to buy a new construction. So there was that opportunity for the listing side and the buy side there. And of course, there's not always people touring open houses. So luckily, I learned pretty quickly to pick up the phone and dial. And I'm really going to date myself now because this was in the 90s, and our MLS system was a 3-ring binder at that time when I started. And in my office, there was a whole wall of 3-ring binders that all had labels on them that said expired. And I just took those binders and started calling those expireds and booking appointments.
And
And
no one else was doing it except you, I bet.
no one else was doing. I mean, I would call and sellers would say, because agents still to this day, right? Like we call expires typically like the day after they've expired. But then the expired from a month ago, from 2 months ago, from 6 months ago, no agents are calling those people. And if they haven't relisted, they're probably sitting there still thinking of selling. They're just disappointed, they're disenchanted, they're uncertain. So when I would call them up, it was a conversation to have there, and that turned into a listing appointment. And I monitored those numbers very closely. If I could book 3 listing appointments, I would walk away with 2 listings.
Okay, well, that's good advice for everyone, even if you're
Good.
not a first-year
Yeah.
agent.
Yes.
Go back, don't just look at this week's expireds.
Yes.
Go back a year,
Yeah.
maybe go back 2 years. Interest rates went up considerably in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Maybe people didn't have their houses sold in 23, and now they really have to sell.
Mhm.
Get on the phone. Yeah.
Exactly. So that transition went from, being a high producing agent to then managing a real estate office and really training and working with agents to help them grow their production. And then I had the opportunity then to start my own brokerage. So ran my own brokerage for a number of years, and then sold my own brokerage, and was able to start working at a corporate level in Canada for a company called Royal LePage,
Mhm.
and worked on their sales and technology and training programs. And then was recruited down to the US in 2007 to help launch the Better Homes and Gardens brand. When at that time, Realogy, so now Anywhere, was relaunching that brand into the real estate market. So launched that brand and worked to grow that brand for a number of years, and then made a couple other stops at a large independent that I helped grow. On the operations side, was the chief operating officer at HomeSmart International and helped grow that business. Was a previous president of Compass, Hawaii and California, and then joined eXp.
You've been moving around.
Well, there's a lot of years in there, but
Yeah, but still,
I had the
Canada, Hawaii, California,
Well, I didn't live in Hawaii, I just oversaw those markets. But yeah,
Arizona.
I've had the opportunity to work at, the major brands, in the industry. And I've always been a student of the industry. So I've always been very
You're
curious.
the only person other than me I've ever heard say those words, because that's basically what this show is about.
Being
Is
a student.
Yeah, digging into the business model
Yeah,
of the companies.
yeah,
Because, and eXp is a perfect example of a company that does it differently than anybody else. And then, there's competitors that are trying to one up,
yes,
of course, and it's not as easy as I thought it would be.
yeah.
Their numbers are increasing, but yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
I
it's
mean, that's what makes eXp so special. So I actually met Glenn Sanford at the very beginning of him launching eXp.
me
And it
too.
was at the time where we were launching the Better Homes and Gardens brand that I mentioned. So we were attending a lot of the same industry events. It was the early days of digital marketing and technology. So we were trying to figure out blogging and apps and social media and social marketing. And so I have known Glenn and have been able to watch the evolution of eXp and the business model over the last 16 years. and have always, as I said, been a student. And, it was incredible to see the trajectory of the industry at large thinking the business model was never going to work, to then, it working.
And why do you think that is, that they figured EXP couldn't survive? Because honestly, I was introduced to Glenn when he had 300 agents.
Mhm.
It was just Canada and the US. Glenn was focused on eXp World as the thing to be talking about. I probably would have joined if he had, this big global picture in mind and what you're going to be talking about with a company without borders or whatever. But that wasn't his focus. It was the technology, because Glenn comes from the technology side of this coin. Why do you think that other companies didn't take him seriously?
Well, I think you hit on a couple points there. I think that, um, you know, part of great marketing is the story that you tell. And I think at that stage, Glenn was still learning how to tell the story of the value proposition and the vision he had for the company as we know it today. So when that story was developing, it was hard as an outsider to say, oh, okay, I want to partner with that company. And you couple that with the fact that we were doing things so differently, right? No bricks and mortar. Revenue share was a new concept in sort of the compensation model side of the business, that it took those early adopters, being willing to take that risk to get the momentum that, eventually turned into where we are today. And there's different phases of that. We went through the hyper growth phase. Well, during the hyper growth phase, the operational side of the business wasn't completely figured out. And then we had to sort of say, okay, we need to figure out
But
how to
that,
get
in fairness, that was before you came on the scene.
it was, yes, exactly. So talking the arc of the company, right? So we had to figure out the operational side of the business. We have spent sort of, okay,
Growth pains.
the last 5 years, we have become like an operationally excellent brokerage. Agents get paid within minutes. Broker support is second to none. Compliance is, top notch. Like those today are the elements that the imitator companies that, you see emulating our business model will not be able to emulate. So it's really such a unique time for us as a company in the industry.
Well, it's also the quality of the people that are at the company at this point
Yes.
that are really integrated into the fabric of the
Yes.
company and make it a great company.
Yeah.
That's why, number 7 on Glassdoor, and
Mhm.
there's only 3 real estate companies in the top 100. So,
Yes. And just today, like hot off the presses, we were named number 18 on the list of best places to work. And we're the only real estate company on that list as well.
which platform or which survey is that?
They are an independent, and they're the largest like independent survey company of employers in the country. And so they've just published that list.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you worked at Compass. I think you worked at Fathom also.
Yes, yes. I was part of the team that took Fathom public.
In which order was that? Compass
Fathom
first?
and then Compass.
Oh, Fathom, then Compass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I left
So
Fathom and went to Compass.
so Fathom is just flat fee, low flat fee.
Yeah. So
Um,
no bricks and mortar.
mhm.
So completely virtual transaction fee model. So transaction fee on each transaction, no monthly fees. Um,
So why would an agent want to work at Fathom is
yeah.
the question. What
Yes.
so you were the marketing
So I was chief strategy officer.
officer? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So marketing fell under the area that I oversaw there. But I oversaw marketing and the integration of mortgage, title, warranty, or insurance in that world. We acquired, after we went public, we acquired a number of companies there. So the typical, ancillary service model of how do you,
So what
when you
was
don't make
the,
money off of the transactions, which is where you're going, you have to have, the ancillary services in the suite in order to, try to monetize the business appropriately.
so do they have an agent attraction model also with revenue share? How does that work?
They do now. They didn't at the time I was there. So the value proposition, it feels odd talking about a competitor's value proposition, but the value proposition, in a Fathom world very much was competing on price. So you know how you say compete on price or you compete on value? That was a world where you competed on price. So for the, typical agent that was doing sort of 4 to 12 transactions a year, that would have been sort of the ideal avatar for that business model where, you could pay $500, $600 a transaction. And, if you're doing 4 deals a year, that's, pretty low overhead. So that was the sort of the avatar that was ideal in that
And
world.
they were in all 50 states, right?
They weren't in all 50, but close to it. I think 38 states or something close to that.
Okay. So that wasn't enough for you. You went to Compass, which is much larger. How did their I'd say business model speak to you?
Yes. Well, it's completely different. So it was a pendulum swing from the other world. So I would say that in hindsight, which hindsight is always, 2020, as they say, I fell prey, as many agents do, to the recruiting machine that is Compass. Compass came knocking when I was at Fathom and, really aggressively pursued me to come join them. And I fell prey to that. What I quick
Signing bonus?
Well, I was an employee, so it's a little bit different than on the agent side. So those are, let's just say that they are aggressive recruiters, as we know. What I quickly learned was that the culture and that business model, which is the exact opposite of a Fathom world that I was previously in. So high splits, or well.
No
So a
splits.
split world, right?
Average split. Yeah.
Average splits, high incentives to agents through, marketing incentives and all kinds of other things that they do. It's a very different relationship with the agents in a Compass world than I would say agents in many other brokerages. And Compass is very, very much on their brand and less so on the agent's brand. And I have always been such a believer, as I said at the top, in agent branding. If you look me up on social, which please do if you're listening, I'm at Brand Wendy is my social handle, because when we were picking social handles 15 years ago, like, it was brand. It is about our personal brands. So there was definitely a misalignment for me in that culture of agents having to build a
And
brand.
Fathom was the same way, right? It was Fathom on the yard sign.
Fathom is more agent centric.
Oh, okay. So it would be just the
Yeah, a
broker's
lot more
name, the broker's
flexibility
team,
in branding.
brokered by Fathom. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then with Compass, every yard sign is pretty much identical.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are,
Oh,
there are different business models for different people. And I very much believe in the abundance mindset. I am convinced that the journey that I've had and the ability that I've had to work in the very traditional business model, the flat fee transaction business model, and now our eXp business model has given me a viewpoint that is unique of how do we operate a great business and build great brands for our agents. And that is everything that I bring into my role today.
But I think you're going to find this a little interesting. So I had my own company. I've been in the business even longer than you've been in the business, so I'm not going to date myself. And I came to eXp with the idea that I'm already expanding into other states. Every time I go into another state, I have to take another broker's exam, and I have to pay for another MLS and join another board, et cetera, et cetera. I can go to eXp and I'm nationwide.
Right.
I'm in 24 countries and so on and so forth. If Glenn had told me on the yard sign, you can have Castles or Castles Unlimited team or whatever you could have Jim Lowenstern team, whatever you want. eXp is pushed down. It's your marketing, it's your image, it's your agent's image. It would have been a totally different story. So besides the rev share and besides the stock issuance and all those things, what do you think is the number one thing that is drawing, I would say, top agents to
Yeah.
eXp at this point?
It's our community. I mean, it's a community and culture go hand in hand, but it is our community. So we very much have that community of collaboration. And you said it, like we are attracting, top producing agents from all brands to eXp. And because we sort of don't have those walls, we don't have those silos, where we are about entrepreneurs in the real estate industry growing successful businesses. And you mentioned that the without borders or without boundaries. And we have that ability to do that globally. So when you really assess that opportunity and you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you're like, that alignment makes sense. And that's why we're seeing so many top producing teams and individual agents partner with us. And I think we'll continue to see that. The industry is in a shifting time, right? We always say that, right? We always say it's changing, but I think that the changes that we're going through right now, our mindset changes for the practitioners in the industry around what they want their businesses to look like and what they want their business relationships and partnerships to look like. And that's where I think we really do set ourselves apart at eXp.
So Wendy, what's your vision for the future of the industry and how eXp ties into that future?
Yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see, bigger companies. I think we either see big or very, very small. We talk about that messy middle, and you mentioned your background as a broker. Like it's hard to be kind of in that middle, sort of category of business.
Yeah, we had like 7 offices, but in my mind, I wanted to be the biggest real estate company in the world. Well, that's great. How do you do it?
How do you do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we'll see, I'll call them sort of solopreneurs, right? That I might be like 2 or 3 people as a solo team. You'll see more and more consolidation of those middle-sized brokerages, saying like, I'm really great at selling. I don't want all of the other liabilities of being a broker owner.
All the
So
administration.
that's right. All the administration, all of the, financial, all of the legal, all of the regulatory, like let eXp worry about all of that and let me build my team, let me build my business and focus on the parts of my business I really enjoy and not those other parts that are necessary, but that, don't really fuel my fire and the time and resources that I have available. So I think you'll see more people make those decisions to partner with us, and that is certainly what we've seen over the last 24 months, and I think we'll continue to see that, particularly as we go through this market that we're in, right? With interest rates much higher than what they've been, inventory challenges continuing to be out there. uncertainty around economic and, government policy and how that will impact
The NAR, MLS lawsuits and all of that that's going
all of
on.
those things. Yes.
So how do you think Leo's been handling that narrative for the company, for really almost like the whole industry?
Yeah, I'm super proud of his leadership and how he has stepped up and advocated for the industry. And I think that that is an important difference. Is that Glenn, Leo, myself, Holly Maybury, Beth Adams. I mean, I can go through a list of our leadership team. We all sold real estate. So like we really we've sat at the kitchen table, we've had the buyers in, the backseat of the car. We've been through challenges with our MLSs. Like there is just like such a an important perspective that we bring to this, that when I look at sort of leadership in, other companies, they don't have that same perspective. And I think particularly around, the NAR changes, whether it was related to the lawsuit last summer or whether it's related to clear cooperation, which has been the hot topic of late. We come from the perspective of what's the right thing for the industry, for the agent and the consumer from a practitioner's point of view. And that leadership, I think, has been invaluable to our industry. And I'm super thankful that Leo stepped into that role as our CEO. And I'm super proud that eXp as a company has taken a leadership role there.
I literally have an agent on my team. Uh, he's in Florida, and he told me he was going to leave eXp, and then Leo came in and started addressing
Mhm.
basically all the agents, whether it was an Inman News article or it was on CNN or whatever it was. All of a sudden, he was stepping into a leadership position, not just for the CEO of eXp Realty, but the industry, and that's why he stayed.
Mhm.
So uh, you're addressing agents right now, for example, and you're the marketing officer, but I get almost the opinion that you're a visionary, but you're also a salesperson.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you had your own company years ago, and you've been with these other companies, not recruiting, but attracting agents. Of course, this is a great way to attract agents.
Mhm.
What would you say to those agents who haven't joined eXp, or for that matter, are already with eXp, what they should do in the next year to build their business?
Yeah. I mean, I think the last part of that statement is where I would start. And that is by asking, where do you want to build your business to? What do you want your business to look like? Because I think that is how we, go about building that dream, right? And one of the great things that Leo will say when he's talking with folks is that eXp gives real estate entrepreneurs the opportunity to build the size dream for their lives that they want. So I think it starts with having a business conversation of what do you want your business to look like. If you're at 4 transactions and you want to get to 8 transactions, then we can talk about how eXp can help with that. We can talk about training programs like Fast Start that can help you grow your business and lay the foundations of operational excellence for your business. If your business is at 40 transactions and you're thinking, I want to start a team and leverage, my business into a team, then we can talk about like what that would look like and how eXp can help with that and what a team model could look like. And we have Team Leader Academy that can help support on structuring your team for success. You may be at a level of production where you're just like, I'm happy with the level of production, but I need time back because I want to have a different lifestyle. So that could be part of that business conversation on the tools that we have to help add efficiencies into your business to give you time back. So I think it always starts with a business conversation because being at eXp is like being at the best like buffet you could ever imagine. We have so many tools and services, but you're not going to eat all of them or use all of them all at once.
Impossible.
It's impossible.
It would be impossible.
You know, an agent said to me, and this was an agent that joined us from another brand, and she said, you guys have so much. She said, I don't like, I had no idea. And so I think that understanding what your business goals are, we have the best platform to plug into that can help you at every stage of your business. And so crafting that together is just a tremendous opportunity for people. And then I think overlapping all of that, I mentioned earlier, is the community. The community of people who are ready to share, ready to support, ready to open up their playbooks and say, look, here are the tools that I use. Here's how I scaled my business. Here's how I got control of my time. Here's how I found balance between my production and the rest of my life. Like people that have actually doing it and have done it, being able to tap into that community is tremendous. I got a text yesterday from a gentleman. He and his partner joined us last fall. And one of the things I said to them right away is like, you have to go to our events. You've got to get to the in-person events. And they went to the Build event in Cabo that Brent Gove hosts. And that was just last week. And he texted me and he said, thank you so much for encouraging us to go to Build. We learned so much, and this community is so powerful. We are so happy that we're here.
That's great. So, Lux VT, we're
Yes.
gone past the half hour, and I know
Yep.
there's probably a lot to talk about there. I find that to be like personally like the biggest news of the year. And I saw Leo and Glenn at NASDAQ. No, and it wasn't their fault. I'm sure, they were distracted by a million. You were probably there too.
I was.
Yeah. No one said anything about it. I want you to address, first of all, to anyone who doesn't know what it is, what
Mhm.
Lux VT is, and then we now own it. What does that mean? eXp owns it, not you and
Yeah.
me, but
Yeah. Yeah. We own eXp. So yeah,
a little
that's
bit, a little bit, yeah.
little bit. Yeah. So let's take a step further or step back before we talk about Lux VT and talk about eXp Luxury.
Okay.
So eXp Luxury is our luxury division that supports our agents like yourself that specialize and do a lot of work in the luxury market. The luxury market is a different market than, call it, sort of the average residential, sale price in a particular market. So when you're dealing with luxury clients, they expect different marketing, they expect different service. There's a different approach there. And the eXp Luxury division, supports our agents who work in that luxury market. Lux VT is a technology vendor that we started working with a couple of years ago to power the eXp Luxury division. So all of the marketing tools and support that our luxury division agents would use as part of the luxury division to market their higher end properties and market to their higher end clients. A tremendous platform, a great suite of tools and services from a marketing perspective. So much so that, as you mentioned, last fall, we announced that we had acquired Lux VT and brought them completely in-house so that we can continue to develop products and tools to support our eXp luxury agents. So it's been a great relationship.
You know if it was purchased with company stock or cash? Are you allowed to talk about that? I'm always
Yeah,
curious about
we're
these
not,
things.
we can't disclose like the details of
Really? Okay.
the purchase, that publicly traded company stuff. But I can disclose that the entire leadership team, so the CEO of Lux VT is still running Lux VT today. He's part of our marketing team. And it's been just a really great relationship. And we've got some exciting new things on the way that we're working on.
And agents at other companies can still use Lux VT.
Yes, we have kept sort of that arm of the business completely separate, but our eXp agents get some of the special sauce there.
I'm part of it. Can you tell me what I should be using? I would like to hear about the sauce.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example of something that we just launched. We launched Canva Concierge. So we launched Canva to all of our eXp agents globally, which is the leading design tool in the marketing world. And for Lux VT or luxury division agents, through Lux VT, we launched Canva Concierge. So for our luxury agents, you don't want to spend your time, personally designing a presentation or a marketing piece. You want to talk to a marketing consultant about the project that you're working on and about the marketing that you need. That marketing consultant can then create the design and the assets for you. And that's what our Canva Concierge team, as part of Lux VT and the luxury division, will do.
So is that an extra charge or is that free?
No, it's an extra charge for the services of the marketing consultants and the expertise that they bring.
All right. Any questions that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
Well, like you said, there's all kinds of things to talk about. It's been great to have this time with you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, that's the end of the show. Thank you, Wendy Forsythe, the CMO of eXp Realty. This has been great. Thank you for coming on the eXponential Files. I'm Jim Lowenstern. We'll see you next time.